Galactic Center, a metaphysical podcast, hosted by the Cosmic Messenger, featuring multidimensional insights and spiritual wisdom for the collective on a wide variety of topics. As we activate the fifth dimensional frequencies, place the antenna, generate the magnetism. We have another stellar transmission coming forward. You are currently listening to Downloads from the Galactic Center, a metaphysical podcast, with your host here, Derek Pennett, aka the Cosmic Messenger. The date today is October 3rd, 2022. And this is episode 2, featuring the 12-strand DNA complex and beyond. I want to put out a shout out, deep gratitude, and some thank yous and appreciation for all who check out this podcast, who are listening and support my various works and creations. It's a pleasure to be here with you. This is a show, a podcast, where we will talk about anything that is happening in the multiverse. Topics ranging from beings on other planets to how your Merkaba spins, accessing our central heart, or the diamond and rainbow crystalline templates. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. So let's get to the topic at hand. As today we're talking about the 12-strand DNA complex and beyond. Now, the original human, when I say human, think hue, as in the glow, the aura, the energy complex, was originally designed to be a 12-strand DNA human. Now we still are. Just the majority of our DNA strands in the collective frequencies have not been fully activated yet. And due to this occurring, you could say that a large portion of our strands have become dormant. Most of you are familiar with the 2-strand DNA. Well, there's 10 more strands, and it does go past that point. These strands are energetic strands. And there's beings today out there that offer DNA repair, energy works that focus on DNA specifically. I go deep into those realms. But these beings out there are able to get people scanned after doing lots of work. Lots of metaphysical work. I'll say under the microscope, but however they choose to scan them. And they're finding that this 12-strand crystalline DNA is very much a part of the mix. That it's there. It's noticeable. It's tangible. For those who know, they already know. But for those who need proof, it's there. Very interesting stuff. Now, each person's at a different rate with their DNA in terms of turning it on and getting it activated. Each being, each entity, each avatar that incarnates into the human vessel, they are all at different rates and speeds and times. Generally, you move from having your third strand DNA is where we're all at, and then some have moved beyond that. Generally, you move up the ladder, moving towards the 12th. You can, however, bounce and have partial activations of that DNA, or per se, somebody has activated their first through fifth strands of DNA, and then they get to the sixth and they haven't completed. But because of the metaphysical properties that they embody out of the seventh, they may have activated that strand. So it's really a multidimensional experience. Now the DNA, its pure foundation is metaphysical energy, frequencies, and vibrations, and very much is a multidimensional experience. Your DNA, each strand corresponds, mixes, and merges with the 12 dimensions of incarnational reality. Strand 1 works with the first dimension, which is going into the base of the minerals, the makeup, the iron core, the crystals. And strand 2 corresponds with the second dimension, the forms of biological life, the animal kingdom, the plants, the elementals, the Davic realms. When they come into incarnational form, they enter through the second. We're all familiar with the third dimension. Many of us hold fifth dimensional frequencies, but most of us are purely existing in the third dimensional experience. And so forth we move up the chain, up to the 12th, with the 12th strand DNA accessing the 12th dimension, the universal mind, the light fields that first gave its presence as etherical matter, supernatural abilities, the cosmos, the galactic chord, and beyond. So we plug into that multidimensional interface, and what a majestic, beautiful interface it is. Now, we have our DNA inside of ourselves, and it's also made up of base tones and overtones. Sound is one of the biggest creators of the multiverse. It's huge in the foundational mechanics of making up our reality. And as we are assembling all of these DNA complexes into ourselves, we must assemble the base tones and the overtones of every single vibration, sound vibration, that's within each strand of DNA. And over countless aeons and millennia, we have fallen as a collective into a grand sleep, we'll say, where our consciousness has evolved in certain ways, but as a collective has de-evolved. So we forgot, lost, and pushed aside all of those overtones and base tones, and different parts of our DNA have been deactivated, but they're sitting there, waiting to be accessed once again. We just have to tune in and tap in and participate in the spiritual and metaphysical realms. Our own, independent, pure realms mixed with the wisdom of the star temple that fits through many galaxies, that has been around with carrying that wisdom for billions and billions and billions of years. Our DNA, the foundation of it is multidimensional, which makes it quantum, meaning it doesn't operate on a linear sphere. Our DNA holds so many amazing properties that gives us the ability to even be able to walk around in the physical vessel that we have today. When we turn on our DNA and we begin to activate more of its parts, then we get to access those deeper layers of the self. We gain more wisdom about who we are. We have a more infinity and an interconnection to all of creation. We even turn on our supernatural abilities, which once they're activated and we become used to them again, they're still supernatural, but they become natural. Our gifts to carry forth with the magic of the universe. We are creators. These are our extrasensory perceptions and abilities. It must also be noted that when the full capacity of the 12-strand DNA human is fully activated, we are able to live forever. The original human, the humanoid, this form that we see, was created to never expire. Just imagine that. There are many beings that walk this planet right now that are 200 years old, 400 solar years they've spent on this planet. Some in the 600 range. There's not a lot, but there is a few. And we're talking ones who have embodied the human form. Of course, there's many other star beings from other planets who are here, who live much longer than we currently do. But anytime any of them access our planet, there's a lot of variables that go into how long can you be here, how long can you stay. The original human with its 12-strand DNA was having a life cycle between 800 and 1200 solar years. And with the 12-strand DNA activated fully and completely, you're able to leave the planet, move into the multiverse, carrying your body with you. Each and every one of us has the capability to do so. And that is absolutely incredible. It's the magic and wonder of the cosmos. Our 12-strand DNA talks deeply to ourselves, but not just ourselves. It talks deeply to other parts of our being. All of the energetic parts that make up our oversoul, our light body, and the entirety let's say our subtle bodies, the entirety of our galactic cord, our Merkaba spin, the base 7 chakras, and the 5th dimensional frequencies of the upper chakra system, our core star, the Hara line, etheric double, astral twin, and so on. These are big terms, and each of them could be their own complete episode, just chatting about that one particular aspect of multidimensional living, of your energetic bodies. But your DNA talks to them all, and it interconnects them like a complex web. So when we talked earlier about turning on our multidimensional parts through our DNA. When we start to turn on the 5th dimension and beyond, that's when we really begin to plug in to the full sensory perception and abilities that we have. Now, just because your DNA, certain strands are not activated, does not mean they're still not there. They are still there. Or else all your energetic bodies would be lost in the fractals of the universe, never to be found again. But because of the Akashic records, because of the energetic threads that connect all of multidimensional living, they're there. They're just further away from your body than they need to be, waiting for you to ask them to come in, to invite them to come to you, so that they can be noticed, illuminated, and turned on. Many of us right now are plugging in our 4th dimensional DNA, which is the 4th strand of the DNA. And that connects us into the astral plane, the plane of messages from our dreamscape, traveling while laying on the ground and having a sound healing experience. Being able to move our energy away from our body and out into the fields, the environment around us. Or being at 2 locations at the same time. Field coupling and transferring consciousness through all of creation. When our heart broadcasts its frequencies, it's using the astral plane. And when you turn that on, you become more in touch with your emotions. Or you start to uproot them. So many beings on this planet right now, they're in the 3rd and 4th strands of our DNA. There is growing numbers that have their 5th, 6th, starting to turn online. In order to be way showers for others on how they can find their own unique path. To be able to speak, work with, and utilize their DNA, one of the founding components of the universe. By us shifting ourselves, recalibrating, and illuminating, we bring that out into the collective. It influences, inspires, and in some cases repels others. But the templates of the frequencies enter the grid work. And it's all assisting everyone in the perfect time, space sequence. I will say that when the majority of humans, or more of us, activate the DNA, more and more beings start to plug in. If somebody's only familiar with the very basics, or just a few entry-level aspects of metaphysical healing, even if it's just holding a crystal or my subconscious, just pick a couple easy ones that people recognize. Your DNA is plugging into those. And without your DNA, you would not be plugged into them. Your DNA speaks to your nervous system, to your cells, and to all of these parts. Now, if you have these parts and they're not maintained, not utilized, then they become rusty. They don't operate to their highest potential. You may not be plugged into your highest self, or have an awareness that life exists not just on this planet, that there's alternate universes, multiple dimensions, far more than they ever tell us, that there's a multiverse, that there's a parallel Earth, an inner Earth. How about teleporting and using stars known as to us as suns as interdimensional gateways to travel through the galaxies? When that awareness is reserved for only something that's fantastical, through the entertainment complex, the entertainment industry, and that's the only place that it really resides, there is a disconnection from the upper spectrum of our 12-strand DNA. This greater connection to the cosmos that brings everything in. When our 12-strand DNA was originally designed, it went through multiple genetic experiments. Get that, other star beings experimenting on us, creating us. Except in this case, doing it for our highest good. Giving us abilities. Imagine at one point a human being not really having an emotional complex. And that it didn't just evolve over time, but it was a combination of that and it being planted into our DNA. What a gift. There was 12 we'll call them star races for ease of conversation, but star beings, metaterrestrials, that did not originally come from Earth, who donated portions of their DNA, the master strands that they had, such as an emotional complex, or the ability to have supernatural abilities, the compassionate heart, all of this stuff, and so much more, got met, designed, and intermixed together. Such beings as the Syrians, the Lyrans, the Pleiades, Andromeda. This was a very long time ago that this took place. These original seedings, planting the seeds, We're 250 million years ago on Earth time based on us going around the sun. Let that sink in for a little bit. That was the original template for the design that became the human as we know it today, which started to show its form around 800,000 BC. So we are a merging of all of these different beings, the energetic imprints, overlaid into our bodies, our soul, and onto Earth. There's another really cool feature about our DNA. Stargates. You may have heard that term before. What are stargates? They are interdimensional gateways for a being to be able to enter in to a planet, a dimension, or incarnate. You chose to incarnate into the 5th dimension, or you chose to incarnate into the 12th. Depending on where you are in your ascension process. The DNA is plugged in to the 12 stargates of this region of the galaxy. I don't remember where they all are, but I do know there's 3 in Lyra, the 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensional stargates. There's 3 on Earth, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd dimension. Tara, our 5D cousin, has another stargate. And there's also at least 1 in Sirius. But just because we don't have the physical, or like we like to say, physical stargate, ethereal stargate, all 12 on each planet, you have the gateways and the access points through all the various Templar sites and activation grid portals. Every planet that has sentient biological life is plugged into that matrix. So when fallen angelic beings that do not have our interest in play come and attempt to take over these stargates, block them, or remove them from our consciousness, then portions of our reality go blank. So if anybody's ever heard the term being in a soul trap, reincarnating in the same cycles constantly, that is not the totality of it all, but it's definitely a portion of how it seems that many beings continuously come back to Earth over and over again in low consciousness vibes, vibrational frequencies, seemingly not being able to leave the planet. If you turn on your DNA, and the higher levels that you move them up, you're able to access more of these stargates, and then have more choices of where you can roam in the multiverse. We are guardians of these stargates, and we're here to take care of them. That's where the 12-strand DNA human comes into play. It turns on a network. As we turn on our DNA, the grid work of Earth changes. I'm talking the morphogenetic fields. Many of you have seen the picture of Earth in space and how far all of the different atmospheres and energy waves come off the planet and how far they go out. We can affect that because that grid work is made of plasma. We are made of plasma, and our DNA is made of plasma. Ethereal matter. and semi-etherical matter that could be transformed and mutated. When the original Christ consciousness came to Earth, and that story is definitely not being told the way that it went down. It's much more wild and expansive than we can ever imagine. The first version of that Christ consciousness was a 12th dimensional template, carrying that full package of the seated human. And we are to embody that within inside of ourselves, to be that amazing. That's kind of our marking point. Not to idolize and not to worship, but to become that awesome that every single being on this planet is that amazing. And when we distort our DNA, when we forget about our DNA, then the environment around us is a mirror showing us all of the distortions. And by cleansing those distortions, we rewire our 12-strand DNA complex. But we have to move forward and do the work. And by doing that work, that means taking a good look, a good hard look at ourselves and our environment. During these wild changing times on Earth, our environment is much more robust than we can ever imagine. But there's no doubt that it's been filled with toxins. And lots of it. Chemicals. Toxins. Invasive frequencies. And a lot less organic, natural life. And a lot more synthetic and robotic. And when you fill from the inner core of Earth up to its land through the biological life to the air that you breathe and the water into the sky, and then all the different spheres that we have up there, stratosphere and all of them. Then you mess with the plasma. All these particulates, they enter everything. And they begin to program the DNA. Our DNA is very much programmable. Starts to give it instructions, as well as drops its consciousness. It does not create a healthy environment in order for our DNA to shine. And what we'd like at this time is for our DNA to shine bright. Something else out there that is really fascinating is with the 12-strand DNA, it doesn't stop there. It goes far beyond the 12th strand. I remember when I first encountered this term, the 12-strand DNA, many, many moons ago. It kind of blew my mind and expanded my horizons, and it just felt natural, whole, and complete. So I started to learn about it, grow with it, expand my DNA. As a starseed, do the best possible service I can to myself and everyone around me. Then I picked up a book one day. I can't remember which year. There's been so many books. But somewhere within the last decade, opened up a book and it started talking about 60 plus strands. And that really got me thinking. It expanded my mind even more. How far does this really go? And I continue to be open to the possibilities. Just having that field open, that there's more. Well, we've heard the term Ascended Masters before. And if you haven't, Ascended Masters are beings who have gone beyond the diamond and rainbow crystalline templates. They've mastered incarnational reality. They can enter a body at will, leave with their body or not at will. And they carry super consciousness within them. They've done the work, they've put in the time, and they have a permanent baseline. Some of these beings who are Ascended Masters are Christ Consciousness, Kuan Yin, Jual Kul, Saint Germain, Serapis Bey, Lady Portia, Sanat Kumara, and there's so many more. They bring wisdom, and every single one of them are here to help us grow and master self-awareness. To become an Ascended Master, you must wire 30 strand DNA minimum. So it's between 30 and 48 strands. Notice how the 12 strand DNA multiplies perfectly into 48. 12, 24, 36, 48. 4 times up, 4 in numerology, is a big number for foundation. Holding the very structure for something to then accelerate and grow from, become something. Hold the groundwork, so to say. Now imagine having 30 to 48 strands. So when we get our 12, because we will, and we activate the full destiny of the human being, the future's unwritten. We'll see how the story goes. It doesn't stop there. Imagine being able to enter the spirit world and incarnate into matter on demand that you choose. Of course, we need to keep the environment healthy. We need these stargates activated, not run by nefarious forces, so that you can come and go as you please. On a more simpler route, there's still ways to make that happen. It gets a little bit more complicated. Now, I talked earlier about the base tones and the overtones going into our DNA, and that the sound makes up that reality. Many of us can hear ear tones and the frequencies of the planets when we tune quietly and there's no distractions around and no other sounds. We can hear those frequencies oscillating on a continuous, regular basis. Those sounds, because they're the very makeup of the universe, are embodied into the DNA. So when we fill up our civilizations with constant noise, distractions, entertainment, false realities, images, construction everywhere, banging and slamming all over the place, airplanes flying through the sky, boats coming everywhere constantly, what does that do? to us being able to hear the sound of the DNA. You need to hear that symphony in order to work with it. So I guess you could say it gets lost in translation. There's one more area within each strand of our DNA, very similar to our dimensions. 12 dimensions, 12 strands of DNA. "12 densities within each DNA, within each dimension. These densities are vibratory rates. You could have 1,000,000 humans, and half of them could be at the 3rd density within the 3rd strand DNA. As you do the work, you're slowly moving up through them all. This is all done at a rate that works perfectly for us in this moment. It's not going to rush us through something that we cannot handle. And these densities move through these templates. So you go through all 12 of these densities, all the way up and all the way through. And then that completion of those 12, notice another 12, creates a foundation for that DNA, and then you move on to the next strand. You'll feel it inside of your body when you've made a grand change. You'll notice your reality will be radically different than it was before. Each time a new DNA turns on, it's like you barely recognize yourself. Or you recognize yourself more because you're becoming more of your true self. You also notice that you'll vibrate faster. If you just pause for a second and feel all of the particles inside of you coming in through you, around you, it'll start to vibrate faster, more particulate. This is because you get tuned in more into the photon band. The photonic belt, the ascension waves of energies that come in during ascension cycles and leave their overlay. You get tuned into the finer frequencies of the DNA. You get tuned into the finer frequencies of the planet. Because as we raise our DNA, as we shift our realities, Mother Earth goes with us. This planet is a living entity. The combination and more of every single thing that makes up this planet, including every particle, every strand of DNA, and every single being that is on this planet. We are powerful beings, and we can send waves of DNA upgrades out into the collective. We incarnated at this time because this is one of the hardest tasks to do because of the intensity and distortions that is on this planet at this time. This is stuff of ultra legends. A clarion call that was made out into the cosmos to come clean up a mess that has been slowing down the human progress for a very, very, very long time. We are right on schedule. But the ancient future texts read in the now, the new texts, all of them combined, were a little behind. The DNA is your best friend. And it wants you to grow and be your best self. And once you pass through some of these blockages to open up more, everything becomes more crystalline magical, and amazing. It's been absolutely wonderful today, sharing these metaphysical transmissions with you, insights about the 12-strand DNA. Be sure to head over to my online portal, Linktree/The Cosmic Messenger. It's a one-stop portal to all of my services, creations, and beyond. Derek Pennett, Reiki Master Teacher, Metaphysical Activator, and Lightbody Technician. Reach out to the Cosmic Messenger if you'd like to get a hold of me to access any of my services. I do distance and in person. I am based in Victoria, BC. The Cosmic Messenger 33@gmail.com. Take care, everyone out there. Can't wait for the next broadcast. And enjoy the magical wisdoms that your multiverse and the co-creation with the cosmos has to offer. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Listening to downloads from the Galactic Center, a metaphysical podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Until next transmission.